Hello, 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 hello. My name is Lisa, and for people coming in, I just want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, this is where we talk about mental health issues. I'm gonna tell you my story, um, and how I got to to doing this. Well, my okay, we're gonna have to take it back a little bit because my mom died October 31st in '88. you know, and my first run in was like somebody that was supposed to be a friend of mine, like the week after my mom passed. He raped me, you know, and you know, looking back on it, I actually feel bad that I didn't follow through because after the incident, mind you, I was homeless at this time. You know, my mom had passed, and I was living with my mom at the time, and my sisters felt fit not to take me in and leave me out in the street. So, and yes, they are older. So, the week my mom passed away, I was raped. And when he dropped me off after all was said and done at the building I used to live in with my mom, and they had security guards in the building, um, which I knew every last one of them, and they could just see my face and the tears and everything, and they asked me what happened, and I told them what happened. And I had went down to the corner store where my ex was working. My ex-boyfriend was working at the time, and they were trying to find out what was going on because my face was so beat red and my eyes were just red and swollen from crying. And I told them what happened, but the oddest thing happened because as I was telling that story, because I lived in Long Island, Nassau County Police Department, a cop had rolled into the store to get something to eat. And um, I had asked him because the guy did use protection, um, but I was just freaked out, you know. So when I asked him about it, he said it's just going to come down to your word against his word. And I just left it at that point. And I kind of leaned back on the ice cream storage thing that you see in the stores. And I could see that as he was purchasing whatever he was purchasing, he kept looking back at me like he knew something was wrong because he could see it in my face. But he didn't press the issue. And, I didn't actually volunteer that. So, I actually, I'm looking back on it now and I feel bad that I did it, you know, but in September, well, actually, I took the test for the military in May of '89, and I passed the exam, and I went into the Navy. I was on a delayed entry program, which basically means that I took the test in May, but I wasn't going to leave at that point. I had to wait a couple of months. So I took the test in May of '89. I passed it, and then I want to say the very ending of June, the very beginning of July. That's when my recruiter, he took me down to what they call MEPS. And for those who don't know, MEPS is an acronym for Military Entrance Processing Station. That's where you go and you get the rest of your paperwork done. You get You get your physical, and then that's where you swear in. Once all is good, then you do your swearing in, and at that point, you're now the property of the government. So all good in the hood. July 3rd, I left for boot camp in Orlando, and since I was coming from New York, I went through. We didn't even fly; we took the bus down. But until that time, we stayed in a hotel for a couple of days. I guess they were waiting for other recruits to come through. So me and another female, we shared a hotel for at least 2 days. And then we rolled out. So boot camp was uneventful. Boot camp 8 weeks. But at the end of the 8 weeks, I did not have my orders. So what they did was they transferred me over to what they call seaman apprenticeship training. You know, and that's a 3 week course, but it wasn't as stringent as boot camp was because we had, so long as we didn't have duty, we was able and free to you know hang out during the weekend, so long as we came back by 7 o'clock Monday morning. You didn't have duty on Friday, you can hang out until 7 o'clock Monday morning. You know, and so I did. So this one guy that I thought was a friend, okay, and he was a white guy. I thought was he was friend, and we used to hang out at this hotel, just like right outside of the base. We called it like Division 11. Just an extension of the base. Because that's where we all hung out on Fridays and Saturdays when we didn't have no duty. That's where we went, you know. And I can honestly say you can actually go there with no money and still wind up drunk by Sunday. And you had a place to sleep. That's how we roll. We went heavy like that, you know. So this one particular time, this guy that I thought I knew, I thought was a friend of mine. Um, he he was saying hi, and I spoke and I said hey as I was coming through the parking lot of the hotel. We talking and everything, and I had a friend of mine sitting out by the pool. But where he was sitting at the pool, you can actually see, right? So somebody from the top balcony, because he was on the bottom floor, so somebody at the top balcony, they were hollering at me, and I was like, hey, And before I knew it, this man had literally physically picked me up and pulled me into the room. Now I'm holding on for dear life, telling him to stop, and he refused. He kept pulling and pulling and pulling, and finally he got me in and he carried me into the bathroom, and he was just up my skirt trying to get in between my legs. And the he had a roommate who was black. He had a roommate that was staying with him, and this guy had me and hemmed up in the bathroom with his knee against the door, and he refused to let me out. He was steady trying to fill me up and stuff like that. And I'm like, I kept telling him, stop, stop, just stop, you know. And finally, after about 10 minutes, he let me out. And as I came out, a friend of mine that was sitting out by the pool, and he met me halfway. He's like, what's going on? he said, "You kind of looking frazzled." So I told him what happened, and he said, "I saw." He said, "I saw it from the pool. I saw him when he grabbed you. I saw him when he started pulling on you. I saw you trying to hold on for dear life." He said, "At that time, I thought y'all were just playing, you know." And I said, I don't know what to do." And he said, "Let me tell you something." He said, when you get back to your barracks, go to your division petty officer, which we call DPOs. Go to your division petty officer and report it. And whatever you need from me, girl, you know you got it." So I was like, cool. I don't think I stayed the whole weekend. I think I left right after that. And I do remember going into my division, my division petty officer's office, and I asked if I could talk to her, and she said sure. And we kind of closed the door, and I told her what happened, and she looked at me and she said, "From 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, your butt better be at JAGS." And for y'all that don't know what JAG is, this is Judge Advocate General. So it's basically a lawyer for the military, an attorney for the military. So she was like, I expect you to be down at the JAG's office, Monday morning at 7 a.m. And I said, okay, no problem. Because see, once you get a direct order like that, you can't really say no, because then they can write you up, So um, I'm glad that she said it, because I didn't know what to do. So that's what she told me to do. So Monday morning, 6:59, I was at the judge, the JAG's office, and I told him what happened. And I said I reported it to my DPO, and she suggested that I come down here and talk to you guys early this morning. So here I am. And they took my statement and everything. And so from what I heard was that he did this same thing to another female, except she was a virgin. But the thing is, when I tried to talk to her, she didn't want to talk about it. So, I can't press nobody that don't want to talk about that, because I can understand it, why you wouldn't want to, So I was like, okay, so I got word, because it was set to go to captain's mess. And what captain mess is the highest level. It's like that step under a court martial, right? That's the best way I can explain it. It's like a step under a court martial, So, um, and I told my story, and this was a captain who was an admiral. I mean, this was an admiral. This wasn't a captain. So, but he said it's not that, as he went through the charges, because obviously this guy, mind you, we're in Florida, so the drinking age is 21. So he went through a plethora of charges against this guy in underage drinking, you know, and then he finally got to mines, you know, but even though mines was last, he did mines first, So he's like, it's not that I don't believe you, it's just that I didn't have enough evidence to corroborate that, you know. And so from that point, I was dismissed from the um, captain's mast. I do not know what happened to him after that. All I know is he had a plethora. I mean, he had charges upon charges upon charges of underage drinking. And you were in Florida. So, but I had already got wind that that's what's going to happen. Because I had a friend of mine that worked in the office, and he's like, and he scooped me before I even happened. He said, "Listen," he said, "you're not going to win this." So I just kind of looked disappointed, and he said, "But wait, 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 hold on." He said, "When you go in there, when they read the charges, when they read, the verdict, he said, don't show any emotion." He said, "Do not show any emotion. Let him say what he's going to say, and then when you dismiss, then you can break down." He said, "But do not show any emotion at that point." And then he said, "And there is a bright side." He said, "The bright side now to this is now it's in his permanent record. So if he does this again to somebody else, they'll have something to fall back on." Which actually helped me out a lot, because, at least I took it as far as I could. And the fact that I now know that it's in his permanent record. So if he ever does it again to another female, you know, there it is. Now you can see he's got a pattern, you know. So all through that, I just, because you have to remember everything was happening, boom, boom, boom. My mom died in 88. In October 88, I was raped. November 88, and in September 89, I was sexually assaulted. So everything was just kind of like boom, boom, boom. But it's like I didn't really have time to breathe, or I didn't have time to process, because I didn't have time to stop. I had to keep moving. But the problem with that is that I got comfortable with that. So I got complacent, you know, and I was like, okay, well, we just gonna keep moving, keep pushing. If it ain't bothering me now, I ain't gonna mess with it. And then I got comfortable with it. But then, see, once I got out, well, first of all, I had drinking issues, okay, and alcohol is not my forte. It's really not my forte. But I couldn't do anything harder, so alcohol was the best bet. You know, um, I even went to treatment for alcohol, but yet I still couldn't stop. I just learned how to do it on a slidey slide, right? Um, at this time, I know I was married, and see, I like to tell people that, oh, he cheated on me, he was a dog, he was this, he was that, and his third, but I cannot put all that on him because that was me, you know. I just didn't want to be touched, and because of that, he just automatically assumed that I was cheating, which that was not the case. And I'm not really sure. I don't remember if I ever told him that I've been raped and sexually assaulted. I might have. I'm not sure. It's been so long ago, you know. Um, but I'm guessing I probably didn't, or if I did, I probably just glazed over it real quick. Um, so he thought I was cheating because he wasn't getting it, so he thought somebody else was. I'm like, that's not the case. Nobody was getting it, because I did not realize that the rape and the sexual assault had really kind of damaged me, I had no clue. But then I wasn't paying attention, you know? So when I got out, you know, I went into something harsher. I tried crack cocaine for a little bit. I did not like that, and so my drug of choice was always sniffing cocaine. So when I got to the Bronx and stayed with my cousin, her next door neighbor was a sniffer. So me and her kind of teamed up. We was like the Bonnie and Bonnie, you know, and it was off to the races. It was off to races. Now, this is the problem because one night, and I don't know what happened, but I had like, I want to say like a mental breakdown because it was one of those things where I started to cry and I could not stop crying. I could not stop crying, you know. And then the next day, when my cousin got home from work, you know, we went to the VA and I went to the psych ward of the VA, and this is where my journey started. That was kind of acknowledging, but still kind of not, because I was still dipping and dabbing. Well, I got into this relationship and I was living with the guy, and I had went to counseling, my groups. So when I got home, first of all, I knew something was off because he was supposed to be working. And when I pulled up at the corner in a cab, I saw him standing there waiting, and I'm like, that knot, that pit in your stomach that tells you, okay, something ain't right here. Because he never, ever, 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 ever did that, you know? So the pit of my stomach, it was just not, because I knew something this wasn't going to end well. Something was happening. So we got to the apartment and we lived in a fourth floor walk up. And when we got there and I saw all these empty cans of Coors beers all over the place, then I knew it wasn't really good. That was like, oh man, see, I knew when he met me at the cab outside that it wasn't going to be good. But now seeing all of this, I know this really ain't going to be good. And I guess he must have forgot he was on probation. So me and him got into a fight because, um, like where I was going for my groups, in a certain spot of the building, there's a dead zone, right? So your calls drop, you know. So when he would call me and I'm in that section of the building, and then it would drop, then I would go outside and have to call him back. And then all of a sudden he starts in with, why you hung up on me? Why you this? Why you that? I said, I didn't hang up on you. You know this is a dead zone. This is why I'm calling you back. I did not hang up on you, you know. And so we got into it, you know. Of course, he had to poke me in the face with his finger, pretty close to my eye. And at that point, I knew I was done, right? So that night, we went to bed. The next morning, when I went to group, I told my counselor, and my counselor got me the hell up out of Dodge, and she sent me to a rehab that was up here in upstate New York, you know, and I stayed there for 8 months. And at that point, that's where my journey really, really, really begun. This is when I started to acknowledge everything. the rape, the sexual assault. I started to acknowledge that, you know, and I knew I had to, because this is my mental health. So, yes, I have PTSD stemming from MST, military sexual trauma. I'm also bipolar, you know. So, and so I was like, okay. So I was like, oh, I got myself into counseling and I kept myself in counseling. Till this day, I'm still in counseling. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? You can snap like that. I mean, it's a slippery slope. And I don't want to go back there. You know, I've worked too far. I come too far, worked too hard to get to where I am now for me to turn around and do something stupid and lose it all. It, like they say, it takes a lifetime to get what you get, and it takes 5 seconds for you to undo what you did. You know, and you're not trying to do all that. So I went to last year. I've never been to a retreat. So I went to a retreat out in Texas and for a week, which is a big thing for me because usually I'm not even I'm not out of my house for like more than a day or two. So for 7 days, this was a big jump, and I didn't know how I was going to handle it, So I went to the retreat, and I have to really thank the retreat, the Warriors Connection. Thank you, because they really helped me. They helped me so much that I was able to release a lot. And I was able to release things that I probably didn't know I had hemmed up, you know. All I know is that when I got back, my emotions were so raw. I've never felt my emotions ever that raw. And my emotions were super raw. So, you know, when I was in therapy, and I was telling my therapist about it and stuff like that. And I was doing the exposure, therapy, and when we started to talk about the rape, I just lost my stuff. I just lost my stuff. I just cried. And that's the first time she ever saw me cry, see me cry. I cried, you know, and I was like, whoa, you know, and this is how I knew that the retreat worked because it was like I, as much as I tried to fight it, as much as I tried not to want to cry, I couldn't fight it. I just let it out. I do not like to cry. It gives me a headache, but I couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold it, And so this here, break the mental health stigma, was something that a friend of mine and I started doing back a couple of years ago, 3, 4 years ago, maybe. And she lives in Canada. Hi, Sherry. You know, and so we started talking about it, and she was like, "Well, let's do something with this. We got to do something." And both of us are heavy arts and crafts doers. We like the diamond paint. She likes to do resin. You know, and so what we did was like once a year we did an online event where it was a craft along where we did our arts and crafts, but we talked about mental health issues, you know. And so I think that's what I'm going to start doing again, you know. So I picked up, she was like, Lisa, because I knew that her plate was full. So she's like, Lisa, I'm handing you the reins, you know, do what you can with it. And I'm like, okay, so I got the reins. I turned it into a LLC, and I think I'm going to start picking up the craft along. Except I won't do it in June, which is a mental health awareness month. So I may do it around the holidays because the holidays are the hardest for people. I know, I grieved the death of my mother. I grieved the rape. I grieved the rape, the sexual assault, you know. And at this point, and I don't like going nowhere. I will not go nowhere. If I don't really have to go nowhere, I'm not going nowhere. It's a struggle just for me to get up and just go to the damn store, you know, because I feel like there's danger in everywhere you go. If you can't trust the people who you thought you knew, then who can you trust? And at this point, I don't even know if I trust myself. You know, the bad decision makings that I make because I don't trust myself. Because this is what these two things happened. This is what happened. This is what caused me like that. I have thoroughly no trust in myself, you know. And sometimes I get angry because I'm like, you did this to me, but I'm the one who's got to reap the downfall behind what you did. You don't give a damn what you do to me. And we all know that when it comes to rape and sexual assault, it's not a sexual thing; it's a control thing. Because after I was raped, after he dropped me off, he threatened to do it to me again. You know, so you know my state of mind. You know, I don't want to say I'm damaged, but I can say I'm fractured. You know, I'm fractured. My mental health is fractured because what two people did. Not only do I not trust people, I don't trust myself. You know, and then it gets to the point where I no longer have emotion. I don't have the connection that I used to have with people. You know, I'm numb. And this is why that retreat really helped me in that area because it brought out my emotions, it brought out my feelings. Whatever I was holding back for so long, I could just feel it up in here. So when I talked to my therapist and we went back to the rape, it was just like I I couldn't hold it no more. My emotions were that raw, you know, and I really do appreciate that retreat because it for me it did what it was supposed to. I wasn't expecting it because excuse me, I wasn't expecting it because I've never been to a retreat before. So I really didn't know what to expect. All I know was when I went there with an open mind and an open heart, you know, and let's do it. Nobody said that this life of mental health was going to be easy because this is not an easy road to travel. You have your bumps and your bruises, and trust me, I still get those. You know, but the thing is having the tools to utilize when you stumble across that bump, when you hit that bump, when you hit that curve. You have the tools to use to utilize when you stumble across it, you know. And this is why this is so important to me. This is not just for adults. This is also for, you know, maybe the teenagers or the LGBT community, because I do know that they go through a lot, you know, given their situation, you know. So this is what this is there for, you know, to have a conversation, because the road to healing is talking. You know, I'm not saying it's going to get 110% better, because once it's there, it's there. But talking about it eases it a little bit. You know, it's like they say, if you ever got a cut and you put a band aid on it, right? You're only supposed to keep it on for what, maybe 24 hours, and then you take off the band aid and you let the air hit it so it can heal. But the longer you keep that band aid on that cut, the longer you're going to have bacteria growing in it. So you have to take that band aid off and let the air hit it so that it can heal. Well, this is the same thing with mental health. You know, are you going to get 100% better? No, not looking for it. But what I am looking forward is to be able to deal with situations. You know, when I get depressed, when I get angry, when I get sad, when I just want to say screw the world, you know, I know what to do. You know, and nobody said you have to love the world 24/7, because nobody loves the world 24/7, because there are some people in this world that make you want to, well, you know, lose your crapulence. You know, so, but that's why this is so important to me. It's not that I'm a therapist, because I'm far from a therapist, but I am somebody who cares, and I care deeply about this, the stigma behind mental health. I think that you should go anywhere and have a conversation about mental health without somebody looking at you sideways. You know, at some point, we're going to have to say, you know, it's not about you, it's about me. One thing I learned in therapy is this is a selfish program, you know, and that's why I tell people, like with rehab and stuff. Oh well, I'm doing it for my kids. I'm doing it for my no. These are all the wrong reasons to do it. The reason that you should do it is because for you, you know, because at the end of the day, people are always going to let you down, and if you doing this for those people, and they let you down, you're going to be off to the races. This is why they say you don't do it for nobody. You do it for yourself. This is a selfish program. You have to do it for yourself. And this is why this is so important, because it's self care. You know, I care. Not only do I care about me, but I care about other people too. And I care about what they're going through. And I can relate. And this is the whole purpose of me doing this, is to show people that I can relate, you know, and that we need to have this conversation happening, you know, because it's important, you know. You look around and you see celebrities going through it. They may not want to admit it, but you damn sure can see it, especially if you know you've gone through a similar situation. You can see it. You're like, oh, yep, this child on the downward spiral. Mentally I can see it, you know. And that's why I have the conversation, if not everybody on this big blue marble has suffered some form of trauma. Now, whether you choose to admit it or not, that's a whole different subject, you know. But people have endured trauma, some part in their life. They may not like to admit that they have, but they have. Being it the divorce, being it domestic violence, being it sexual assaults or rapes, you know, that these are all traumas. You may push it off your shoulder and go, whatever. Especially when it comes to domestic violence, whatever. It's not like I ain't seen before. That's the problem. That's the problem. You shouldn't be seeing it because it shouldn't be happening. And when I see that, that tells me that you have trauma and you got some mental health issues. If you can just push off the fact that you see your father beating your mother like an everyday occurrence, like breathing, see, that tells me you got some issues because that's not normal. You should not be seeing daddy beating mommy when you get home. You know, my two sisters, they always fought coming up. They fought like cats and dogs, and that was my trauma as a kid because I had to witness it. I'm the youngest of the three, and I had to witness them two going at it like it was a Floyd Mayweather fight. You know, they did not get along, but y'all did not care about how it was affecting me being the youngest. So I know my trauma stem all the way back to that. But the biggest trauma was the sexual assault and rape. You know what? I just had an epiphany. I just had, oh, wow. This is why we talk about it. See, when I talked about, when I talked about, you know, especially childhood trauma, I never even thought about my sisters because honestly, that's where that I got trauma from that because they were constantly fighting. And like I said, it was like a Floyd Mayweather, Mike Tyson fight. Every day with them two. And being the youngest, I was so very sensitive to everything. Huh. Wow. See, this is why you talk. See, because the more you talk, the more you know, you find things out that you probably didn't even think of. See, I never thought of that. I never thought of that. You know, I get frightened when it comes down to fisticuffs because I'm not a fighter. But don't push me. Don't push me because I will. I don't like to, and I would choose not to. And there's been times where I've been known to just walk away from it. Yeah, blah blah blah, and just walk away. Because a lot of times you piss a lot of people off that way, you know. But I never even thought that my traumas could even stem as far back as my sisters. You know, wow. So I got PTSD all the way around from the military sexual trauma to family trauma. You know, um, this is an important subject. This is a very important subject, and this is a conversation that needs to be had. You know, a lot of us like to walk around like we Elizabeth Taylor, like nothing harms us, that we're invincible. That's not true. That's not true. We have traumas. And you know what? I'm old enough to say, you know what? I got my traumas, I got my mental health issues. And you know what? I'm also not afraid to say that I'm in counseling and getting help for those traumas. You know, like I said, I'm not a mental health doctor. You know, I'm not licensed to practice it, but I can have a conversation as a peer mentor. You know, we can have a conversation, sit down, have tea and coffee. You know, me, I like to do arts and crafts, you know, whatever, you know, and just sit down and have a conversation. You know, this is listen, you know, I'm not feeling well today. This is what I'm going through. And it's like, okay. I said, you know, I'm here for you. I got my ears, I'm listening to you, you know. Now, if it gets to a critical junction, know, where we like talking about, you know, taking our life or something like that, then I will refer you to a crisis center. I will refer you to a crisis center or hotline, which is going to be part of the business. See, because this part of the business I want to keep absolutely free, but um, there's going to be a part of the business where I'm going to be for a small minimal fee, you know, um, going through each state and finding out different resources for people in a lot of states. That way, you know, they say, well, I need to find a place, and I can say, okay, hold on, let me pull it up and say, okay, well, what state are you in? What city you in? Okay, here you got X, Y, and Z. This is the number. Give them a call. You know, for a small fee. You know, I'm also doing, you know, merchandising. You know, I've got some shirts out right now that I have posted up. You know, I'm gonna have cups, I'm gonna have hats, you know. So we're gonna have to spread the word, you know, spread the love, you know. So with that all being said, we're gonna kind of wrap this up. And whoever watched, thank you. I appreciate it. And keep be on the lookout for the next live video. I will be doing a Zoom on the 29th so people will come in and we can just sit and have a conversation. What's shared here stays here. You know, we this is going to be a safe spot for people to just sit and talk about things. You know, this ain't for everybody to go run around and tell their best friend, well, let me tell you about what this girl said to me when I was listening, or, you know, online. No, that's not what we're doing, you know. So we're going to keep this safe. We're going to keep this as respectable. We respect each other here. You know, there's no over talking people. There's no calling out names, calling people out of their names. There's none of that. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. If that's the way you feel, then that's the way you feel. You know, nobody has the right to take that away from you. You may not agree with this one over here, and that's fine. We don't, we don't, you know, I don't. agree with a lot of things that I hear, but you know what? At the end of the day, that's your opinion, you know, and I respect it. So, with all that being said, I am going to take off here and be on the lookout. Like I said, I got a Zoom coming up on the 29th. So be on the lookout for that. And I can have y'all guys come in and we can just shoot shit and just talk. Okay? And until then, everybody be well, take care, love yourselves. Because nobody going, you can't expect nobody to love you if you don't love yourself first. And on that note, everybody, have a blessed night. Have a safe weekend. And until next time, see ya.